and Delanie was a part of this, started to turn it around. Now, what he did during his 7 years here, because he had 14 total, right? 7 with the Niners. You forget how long Delanie was in the league and how far back that goes, actually, until you go look at his Pro Football Reference page. And it wasn't like he wasn't a focal point of the San Francisco 49ers offense. I think it was a really, really great cog that helped them go. But it wasn't until he got here that it really kind of blew up in a meaningful way. He's probably one of the most underrated offensive players of a generation of guys who are going to be legitimate matchup problems no matter where you put him out there. Kind of, he's not, obviously physically, he's not Gronk, but there are few guys at the tight end position specifically. There have been a few more of them in the last couple of years where you start to look at George Kittle and Travis Kelce, who's also been around for quite some time at this point. But I think that for Delanie, he's one of the most underrated offensive players of his generation. He didn't do it throughout all 14 years. The opportunity wasn't necessarily there for it to present itself to him. But when he got here, he became the focal point of their offense. The offense didn't have a lot, but Delanie found ways to make it work. He got over 1,000 yards in 2015. He made the Pro Bowl 3 different times. And here's the thing about him that I know a lot of you guys know, because he had a show on The Zone for a while, and it was fantastic because Delanie comes from a different, it feels like, generation of athletes where there is an uncommon honesty to him. And I think that ruffled people's feathers quite often from time to time during his playing career here. He was very vocal about what Nissan Stadium, as we get ready to talk about the new Titan Stadium plan, and we'll get to your phone calls on that, 615-737-1045 here in just a little bit. But he would talk about, what it was like to play at Nissan Stadium during that time and how he expected basically better support. Now, the team wasn't doing a whole lot of winning during some of Delanie's best years. I think everybody acknowledges that. People support the product that you put on the field, and the product is reflective of what the stands looked like at the time was very much reflective of the product that they were putting out. It wasn't good for a long time. But Delanie, I think, when he talked about, he thinks he would have had a Hall of Fame career potentially if he had played for a bigger franchise. Sometimes rankled people, right? But it's honesty. It's uncommon honesty for somebody who's not afraid to speak his mind. Certainly in the media side of things, you always appreciated that because you can have an honest conversation about the results of what happened after a game, during a practice, the energy and the vibe of a locker room, because Delanie would talk to us and his teammates and his coaching staff and other people the same way that he would talk to anybody else. You got the same line of treatment, and I always respected that a lot about that dude. So Delanie, he'll have his retirement press conference at 2:30 today. I'm going to head over there right after the radio show ends, and certainly it'll be good to hear from him. And in the meantime, what we need to get into before Mayor John Cooper comes in studio with us to answer some of the questions beyond what he said yesterday at his press conference that I think people we're not doing stuff like taking calls or anything like that, but I do want to hear from you today before Mayor Cooper comes in here, what questions you most want to hear answered beyond what he already addressed yesterday at his press conference. We're going to play some of that audio from both he and Titans president Burke Nihill, who were the principal parties at the address at City Hall yesterday. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. By the way, you're going to need to remember that phone number at 10:45. Not yet. Don't call Robert yet, because we've got Tennessee tickets for homecoming this weekend against UT Martin to give away for winners and losers of the sports weekend. Don't call us yet for the tickets. Not yet. We'll talk more about the stadium coming up next here on 104.5 The Zone. You know that Ramon Foster and myself, we are currently on a weight loss journey. In fact, it's turned into a little bit of a competition. I heard Ramon say this morning he's down about 15. I'm there to match his 15, so I'm neck and neck with the big boy right now. But it's all a part of the plan that we were provided, both individualized plans by our friends at PhD Weight Loss. They recognize both Ramon and I's desire to kind of not just lose weight as a part of fad dieting that we had tried before, but to help keep the weight off, to implement sustainable practices and habits to kind of get yourself out of those things if you're somebody whose weight can yo-yo from time to time, as certainly mine has over the years. PhD weight loss will put you on an individualized plan. They will provide you with the meals that you will need to get through the schedule that they designed to work around your lifestyle. You can find out more information about this for life weight loss program at myphdweightloss.com.
Under center. Dropping. Looking. Firing. He's got Delanie Walker. Touchdown! Titans!
That, of course, is the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith. Delanie Walker retiring later at Nissan Stadium today. 14 great years in the NFL. Now, we had a couple of people get to some stadium chat here in just a moment. 615-737-1045 if you would like to join our conversation. What questions do you have for Mayor John Cooper? Be curious to hear what you have beyond what I have already prepared for the mayor, because I want to make sure that we cover as much ground for you guys as humanly possible. And, of course, there are some areas that Robert and I may not have thought of in all of our great infinite wisdom. Although you do look like you just look like you're drowning. There's so much space back there for you in your new spot. I like it personally because when Lucas comes back from his, glorious Puerto Rican vacation that he's taking, thirst trap pictures in front of the ocean on a scene of rocks out there. I like it because he's further away from me. I like that.
Honestly, if he doesn't want to look at you, there's a nifty little beam right here where he doesn't have to stare at you. But yes, I am drowning in how much room there. I mean, you're on stream, I could just click my heels back here. There's so much room for activities.
So much room for activities. It's delightful. But yes, Mayor Cooper will join us in studio, and we'll get to the stadium stuff here in a second. But I had a question come up from somebody in the Zone TV chat, where, of course, you can hang out in the new studio with us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, live streaming Zone TV, about Delanie Walker in the Ring of Honor. That's from Brett Wallace on YouTube. And Delanie is probably the most important free agent signing in the history of the franchise. I don't think there's any disputing that. There's only 3 other players in Titans and Oilers history who have caught more passes in a single season than Delanie did back in 2015. He, of course, was their leading receiver 3 different seasons of the 7 seasons that he was here. His impact is something, the ripple effects of Delanie coming here, everything that happened after the fact, I think really spurred a lot of what you see in front of you now. There's obviously a lot more moving parts in that, but Delanie was a critical piece to all that. Ring of Honor, though, he's not a lifer, right? The first half of his career was spent elsewhere, and arguably the greater playoff success that he experienced as a professional athlete was with the 49ers as opposed to with the Titans. Now, he was a part of the teams that helped break through in 2017 under Malarkey after that, horrific playoff drought that they did have. And obviously, he was technically still on the roster in 2019 when they went to the AFC Championship game most recently. But, played in an NFC Championship game, did not win. They lost the Super Bowl to Robert Walsh's beloved Joe Flacco and the Baltimore Ravens back in 2012.
You don't have to start bringing that up. Everybody already tries to hate on me for the Ravens stuff. I don't like being that's the team that beat our team.
It's the second thing you said to me. I have been gone for a week. I haven't seen anybody, and the first thing that you do to me when I walk into the studio is melt my face off with Ravens takes about how they've blown more 2-score leads in the first 6 games this year than, ever before, or whatever you were saying.
The stat was they have lost 100% of the games that they garner a 2-score lead in. And my friends would just
hilarious, by the
send me that stat. And they're like, I'll say, please stop sending me this. And they'll send me 100%, just 100, the emoji. I'm tired of it. I have terrible friends, by the way.
No, I think all good friends want to see their other friends fail from time to time. I think that's especially true in the sports world.
It's unfortunate because I like to succeed, and I like to see my friends succeed. So it cut me some slack.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you don't like to see your friends succeed, but you like to see your friends succeed everywhere outside of their sports teams. Then it's fun to point and laugh at one another.
It is fun. I guess I see your point. If you were to slip on a banana peel and it was caught on stream, I would enjoy that at your demise. I would. So I kind of see where you're coming from.
This is the kind of support I get every time I walk into work on a day-to-day basis. But in the meantime, you look at the before we get to the stadium stuff, you look at the Titans Ring of Honor, and I don't know that you could put Delanie on there with some of the names that are currently associated with this franchise, right? Jeff Fisher and Floyd Reese just went in. They joined Bum Phillips, who went in, earlier in the season last year. They currently have a list of Oilers and Titans franchise legends that I don't know that Delanie I don't know that you put him in the same kind of categories. Bud Adams, who founded the franchise, guys like Elvin Bethea and George Blanda, Robert Brazil, who just went into the Hall of Fame, Earl Campbell, Jeff Fisher, Eddie George, Ken Houston, Bruce Matthews, Steve McNair. Like, I don't, and that's not all of the names on there. Warren Moon, Frank Wycheck, and several others. So I don't know that you can put Delanie up there, even as you acknowledge that he does have a particularly special place in the timeline of Titans-era football. I think that when you talk about franchise Ring of Honor stuff, going back to 1960, I think it's a more difficult sell. Not to diminish anything that Delanie's done there. I just think, it's exclusive for a reason, because it does take almost, a certain kind of lifetime commitment, I think, to franchises, unless you are clearly and obviously a Hall of Fame player, which Delanie was not at the point, not obviously at the point of during his career as a Titan, or, just across the 14 years that he played. Anyway, we don't have to dwell too much on that, and we'll look forward to hearing from Delanie at 2:30 today. In the meantime, let's talk about the stadium, and we'll get to your phone calls momentarily. But I want to get across some critical points that I thought that I kind of like starred, being at the press conference yesterday with Burke Nihill and Mayor John Cooper, who will join us in studio at 12:15. I just wanted to make sure that I made a couple of key bullet points that I thought would be most relevant to you. So $2.1 billion is the estimate right now. Translucent roof, and they expect it to be open by 2026. So that's a dome, kids, for those of you who don't know. Translucent also, it's SoFi. Now, not SoFi. SoFi is different. SoFi is far bigger. It went, I think, at least $500 million over budget. But, the Cronkies, or Stan Kroenke, is married to a member of the Walton family, and the Walton family founded Walmart. So they're operating with a different kind of a paycheck than you are. That's one of two NFL teams that are currently in the Walton family, after somebody just brought the Denver Broncos this past offseason. So $2.1 billion stadium is the estimate right now. The state, as you'll recall, contributing $500 million that they have already agreed to. The city contributing $760 million in bonds that is supported by the 1% hotel tax and sales tax increase in the stadium development. So essentially, as the Bachelorettes continue to flock to our city, we're going to have them foot the bill, or at least part of the bill, for this new entertainment venue that will also be available to not just Titans fans, but to Bachelorettes, to WrestleMania fans, to people who come in town for an inevitable Super Bowl. And we'll talk about the capacity requirements that the NFL has and how that weighs up against what what the future Titan Stadium. Is it still going to be called Nissan?
That's a good question.
Mayor Cooper's not going to know the answer to that question. That's probably a good question I should have asked. That's a long time. That's a long time away, though. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 4 years from now.
For sure, they can't call it Publix. You know what I mean? Like, if Publix is going to get bought out by something, and then it's like, oh well, we got to change the naming rights again.
What do you mean? There is a Kroger Field that exists in the SEC.
Well, then make it Kroger. I'm down with Kroger. That's where I get my groceries at.
Okay, no free ads. Get out of here.
Yeah, you're right. No free ads. My mom buys my groceries. I don't shop.
Okay. Back to the shadows. Robert Walsh, thank you for all your great contributions. So thus far, 30 minutes into the show. So the state paying $500 million, the $760 million in bonds from the city, as I mentioned. Now, the mayor's office, as a part of his statement yesterday, John Cooper put out the idea that he believes it is going, and that their estimates have shown that it saves or will save City of Nashville taxpayers between $1.75 and $1.95 billion with a B in future renovations and upgrades that were required to Nissan Stadium, to the original Adelphia Coliseum, LP Field, Nissan Stadium lease that runs currently through 2039. So you're talking about an additional 17 years of that concrete hunk of junk that sits on the East Bank. Now, I'm not saying that all these different things are I'm not trying to sell you on a new stadium. If you don't like the idea of a new stadium, I'm not, whatever. That's your position. You may feel that way. I'm not necessarily, I don't know. I don't I'm not like upset about the idea of a new stadium. I don't think it's a bad thing that they're getting a new stadium. I don't know that I'm going to, Derrick Henry's not going to play in the new stadium, right? In 2026, he's not going to be on the roster. Like I don't know who or where any of us will be in 2026. So it's hard for me to get like juiced about that before they've even broken ground. And by the way, the timeline for this thing is something that we have to talk about in its entirety because that's less than 4 years. It's a pretty big ask given, the current economic and supply chain climate that we kind of live in right now. I think, to keep expectations reasonable on that, they have to give people a hallmark or essentially a point to look forward to as you kind of start to, talk about these things. But the savings for City of Nashville taxpayers is significant. Now, is that going to change your state taxes? No. Well, it is probably it's going to show up in your state taxes. And that's something that I want Mayor Cooper, when it comes in, to kind of clarify for people, because obviously I just misspoke there. But that's not the city of Nashville's concern, basically. What happens with your state taxes? That's a state matter, and you have to, understand where you're differentiating between the two things. Now, the roof, the comparisons were made between the Roomba on the Las Vegas Strip, the Allegiant Stadium that the Raiders now play in, which is 1.7 million square feet right now. The retractable roof was considered, but could cost up to $250,000 more, which is a note that I wrote down, and I add parenthetically, I mean, if you're spending $2.1 billion, like, who am I to tell you how to spend your money? But like maybe you foot the cost a little more for the retractable roof, because that's Nissan is one of the few that still has any kind of impact in the NFL. I'm pretty sure half the stadiums right now have gone either domed or retractable roof in the last 15 years.
And think about all the other stuff that you could do with that money. Like you could have a moat around the stadium. How cool would that be? Or like the sidelines could be lava, where it's like you could have so many cool features instead of having a retractable roof where it's like, do we have it open today?
They have a river. You want a moat?
There you go. The river can feed into it. Then you don't have to pay for water. How cool would that be? Put some gators in there. Slay could help. Right.
No, Slay, I believe, has restraining orders by, any kind of environmental protection agencies against elephants right now and gators. He's coming for the Wildcats next, head on a swivel. Or whatever the UT Martin mascot is. Skyhawks?
Skyhawks.
We determined that yesterday.
I thought they were the Martins.
Just looked at him in the green room before the show, and I said, no, you idiot. They're not the UT Martin Martins.
That would be great. But then have like Martin Lawrence as their mascot and do like a whole Martin show. That'd be killer.
I feel like that has deeply problematic potential if you put a cartoon character of Martin Lawrence on the sideline of a college institution. Dear God. But the roof is something that I think is going to be a sticking point for a lot of people, and the idea of turf, because of the amount of events that they are planning on having being hosted by the new Titans facility. The idea of turf is almost a necessity because this thing is going to cost a lot of money. They want to make a lot of money. They want to make a lot more money on it, so they have to up the amount of events that they're having at this facility beyond what Nissan Stadium you can reasonably do on a grass field, right? Turf I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know it's a talking point for the players every year about how much more they believe injuries come into play on turf surfaces versus natural grass. We need to find somebody. I don't even know who you would consult on something like that. Maybe the league. I don't know, the NFL's chief medical officer, Alan Sills. I don't know if that's something that studies are being done on. I haven't seen any, credible information out there beyond what players, the opinion that players voice. But that's also something that's a big deal. And then the fact that it's going to keep the primary location, giving the city back 66 acres, John Cooper said yesterday, for an expanded stadium campus footprint that gives the city back the ability to develop the East Bank where Nissan Stadium and the rest of it currently lies. So all of that is those are the main bullet points that I thought were most important for people. Obviously, there's questions about PSLs. and the credit that the team is saying that current PSL holders will receive towards new PSLs. I cannot speak specifically to the PSL element of that because I'm not, I've never bought a personal seat license. So I know that's a different conversation for a lot of people. And we have some information from the team on that. How you choose to receive that is entirely up to you. But we can take your phone calls on it. In the meantime, 615-737-1045. Jason in Nashville is up first.
Hello.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, I had a question. They're talking about, building this new stadium in the parking lot spot that we currently have the parking lot at. Where is the new parking lot going to go? And then second, shoot.
Oh, no, don't peter out on me, Jason. You can't do that on live air.
I think Jeff got me. He messed up. Now I'm messing up.
Robert, where's the music? Thank you for the call, Jason. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved. Yeah, I mean, the parking situation is going to be a nightmare. There's no disputing that, right? Like the logistics of this situation, while they spend however long it ends up being beyond the timeline that they've set of August 2026, which would be the 2026 preseason. Yeah, the tailgating element of this is a question for a lot of people. I know we have a particularly large contingent in the D spot, as V-Love likes to call it, that will be disrupted by this directly. And, they talked about the new WeGo station, the bus transit system, and a north-south transportation spine that will be located by the stadium in the East Bank development. But all of that being said, in the meantime, the logistics are going to be a nightmare. It's going to be like any other giant construction site that you find around the city. It's going to make your life harder in some form or fashion. And if you want to go to a game, you're just going to have to understand that this is going to be a part of it because they're going to play in Nissan Stadium until this new deal gets opened up. And we'll talk. I'd like to know more from Mayor Cooper about, what it will take to accomplish the transportation goals that they have set out. I know he made mention yesterday of prior approval on a certain transportation plan that had been voted upon. And I'd like, I want to make sure that I understood him correctly from the brief time that we spent at City Hall yesterday. Phil in Portland, always a pleasure.
Hey, happy Bud Light Day to you, Buck. Thank you for taking my call here today, brother. Hey, listen, I got two questions. Please answer them for me, Buck. It's driving me insane. The first one about this stadium, actually both of them about this stadium. The first one that I want to talk about is what are we getting as far as a guaranteed on when they build this stadium that in next 20 years, 15 years, they're not going to say, well, the cost to renovate this thing might be to, rebuild another one. So what did they do in 99 that was different from what Lambeau Field did to last all these years? How do we get a guarantee of longevity out of this stadium? And then my final question is, he said yesterday that parking lot that they're going to use now would be affordable housing. Well, affordable to who? Are we talking low income or are we talking affordable to Garth Brooks? So I just want to know that right there, and I hope you have a blessed day. Thank you, Buck.
Thank you for the call, Phil. So as to guarantees on anything, they're not going to guarantee anything, Phil. It's just there's no way to, right? I think reasonably. Who could have guaranteed the way that a global pandemic would impact so many different things revolving around the economic situation that many of us face today, right? You have no way to predict the future to guarantee certain things that you have clearly and obviously no control over in the immediate. It benefits no one, particularly a politician. So I can't imagine that would be something that they are interested in putting their names on, nor should they be, frankly. I completely understand why that would be the case. Now, what I want to ask Mayor Cooper is what other cities and stadium renovations versus stadium new construction you've looked at, because you have the examples of SoFi and Vegas. You have, as Phil in Portland mentioned, Green Bay and what they've done to Lambeau, and a couple of different facilities across the league, Mercedes-Benz. Like what was the sample size that you looked at and said versus the cost to renovate versus the cost to build new? what was the cost-benefit analysis, basically, and what was kind of the studies that they did based on other logistical areas that would, or other areas that presented the same logistical challenges and financial challenges that Nissan does to the city of Nashville. And, the biggest win for them, both, I assume, Mayor Cooper's administration and for the Titans, is that they get a PR bump as soon as they take this off the taxpayer, the city of Nashville taxpayer, because of what the general fund was on the hook for, which is the consistent maintenance and repairs fees that are required to continue to keep something like Nissan up to standard, because it's clearly below that. Anybody can acknowledge that. I went to FedEx Field not 2 weeks ago for the Titans and the Commanders game, and I'd heard all kinds of horror stories about how bad FedEx Field was. And I looked around at FedEx Field, and I said, I don't think this is any worse than Nissan. Now, there was no raw sewage leaking from FedEx Field at the time, but Nissan is no great triumph. In fact, I believe that it's the only NFL stadium to be built under budget in the existence of NFL stadiums that way. It's not any kind of state-of-the-art facility. And I don't think they're necessarily looking for a state-of-the-art facility. I think they're looking for Burke Nihill said it himself yesterday, the president of the Titans. They're looking for a smart building that will make sure that the product will be indicative of what the environment is beyond, all the different features that they could add to something like this. We'll get more of your calls on the stadium coming up next. We got winners and losers of the sports weekend and the chance to win a pair of Tennessee tickets for homecoming this weekend at Neyland Stadium. 615-737-1045. You give us the winners and losers of the sports weekend, and we'll send you to Knoxville on Saturday. That's coming up next here on 1045 The Zone. Summer is over, but your joint pain's still hanging around, and you don't want to deal with it anymore. You want lasting relief with the solutions that QC Kinetics can provide, because you've just been putting this off for too long. QC Kinetics can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments. No drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Regenerative medicine uses highly concentrated healing properties from your body to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. And QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough natural approach to eliminating joint pain. Lots of people here in Middle Tennessee have done this, and they are living life to the fullest, pain-free. So don't assume that the old ways of dealing with joint pain are the only ways. Call QC Kinetics today. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
We most certainly are. Got some Vols tickets for you to win. How about that for a tease? It is Tennessee Ticket Tuesday here on 104.5 The Zone. You can get a pair of tickets to go to see UT Martin at Tennessee this weekend, this Saturday at Neyland Stadium, thanks to Famous Dave's Barbecue. Get the best barbecue for your buck only at Famous Dave's. Here's how you do it. You call the number, 615-737-1045. Robert Walsh answers that phone. You give Robert Walsh your winner and loser of the sports weekend. He will then put you on hold. You will deliver that with great effort and great finish on the air. And if you do it with enough flourish to impress us, Robert's a tough critic. I'm pretty easy to get. We will send you to Knoxville on Saturday, 615-737-1045. With that, give me the circus music. Oh, he wasn't ready for it.
I was ready for it. It's a big studio. I got so much space.
I think it's going to be so fun to harass Robert in the new studio, and I'm going to make Lucas's life an absolute living hell when he gets back. Love to see it. Winners and losers of the sports weekend. It's real easy. You give me a winner or loser, I'll give you mine as well. Robert's got a couple to share with you. Winner, the University of Tennessee Athletic Administration. There was a bit of an outrage across the sports spectrum when the University of Tennessee, after defeating Alabama 52-49 on Saturday night, the fans stormed the field. They carried away not one, but two goalposts before dumping them in the Tennessee River. And they're asking for a little bit of, you break it, you bought it type situation. Now, they tweeted Sunday that they're raising money for charity, but using the gag of, hey, we need new goalposts, get them here before UT Martin, even though they obviously have goalposts on hand to be installed before that game is played Saturday. There's an option for a $16 donation, which is the number of years it has been since the Vols beat Alabama, up to $1,019.15, which is a nod to the sold-out crowd at Neyland Stadium. I think the winners of the weekend are the athletic administration at UT, because they could have saved themselves all that trouble and said, hey, we beat Bama, give us more money. And everybody would have done the exact same thing. It's great to be a Tennessee Vol this week, but it's even better to be in charge of their finances over the next couple of months for what they've just done. That's my winner of the sports weekend. Loser, there's quite a few. Loser, Nathaniel Hackett. We haven't talked about that an atrocity, another one. I feel like I've said that 6 different times about primetime games this year. But an atrocity between the Broncos and the Chargers last night. Nathaniel Hackett is a dumpster fire as a first-year NFL head coach hire. The offense with Russell Wilson has been stagnant to horrendous at times. The coach who was required to correct the offensive issues and to, really let Russ cook is out here. I think somebody made the joke on Twitter. I wish I could give them proper credit. The only thing Russ is cooking is ramen noodles in the last 6 games of what this Broncos offensive experience has been. I know we're only through 7 weeks, or we're heading into week 7, but like Nathaniel Hackett looks like he could be a one and done. It's been that bad. Who you got, Robert?
My winner of the weekend is Brandon Staley. Because he did not look like, for once in a couple weeks, probably in the NFL season, did not look like the dumbest coach in the game. He usually
They're pretty dumb.
He's usually the big brain, and I'm using air quotes, big brain coach.
He saved all 3 timeouts in the fourth quarter just to attempt a Hail Mary with like 2 seconds left and also get Justin Herbert hit in the ribs again.
You know that those don't roll over, right, buddy? Like, you don't get them in overtime if you don't use those timeouts. I don't know what he was waiting on. Brandon Staley's my winner. And my loser, I don't know how no one's talking about this yet, because I thought this was a rule. My loser is goal line defenses, because what we've seen this year, the Philadelphia Eagles have been prone to it. I've seen a number of teams do this. You are not allowed to push the pile into a touchdown, yes. or you're not allowed to push the pile at all. It has not been called. The Philadelphia Eagles have scored 3 quarterback sneak touchdowns like this. The goal line defenses, what are you supposed to do? They'll just line up and rugby scrum these guys in and just push. And they've even got a rugby player as their left tackle.
That's right. He's pretty good, turns out.
He made it work. Took a couple years, but he made it work. So what are we going to do about this? Because if that's the case, you get on the 1 yard line, you should do like Richard Sherman said and run the dang ball.
Oh.
But instead of running it, just sneak it and cheat. How about that?
We'll get to run the damn ball and Russell Wilson a little later in the show with some Richard Sherman sound. But, you lose because touchdowns win, and everybody wants more touchdowns, and nobody cares about your goal line defense complaints, although he's right. 615-737-1045 for the opportunity to go to Knoxville this weekend. How about Jackie in Crossville up first?
What's up, Blake? The winner of the weekend is clearly Tennessee for beating Bama, but that's not what I'm going to nominate. I am going to nominate you because you will no longer have to fill Josh Gordon questions.
I will get to Josh Gordon momentarily. I love that as a winner. Well done, Jackie.
And my loser of the weekend is the player for the Patriots trying to present the ball to Bill Belichick looking like radio down the sidelines. Hit the ball, coach, hit the ball. And then he has to be escorted off by the assistant. Bill's just like, yeah, that's too big for him.
Do we know if that special teamer, the UDFA out of Texas, has been cut yet? Because Bill Belichick looked at him like, I will get you out of here tomorrow if you get anywhere within 10 feet of me. Thank you for the call, Jackie. 615-737-1045. That was laugh out loud funny. Did you see that exchange?
I loved the look up with honest, like, what are you doing?
Here, from Bill?
Yeah, but he was like, what? I don't touch these. Like, that's y'all's job to touch these. What are you giving it to me for?
He had no idea what the kid was trying to do. And, like, I can't remember the significance of Belichick's win. I think he was either tying George Halas, who's a legendary pro football coach, or passing George Halas. I can't remember the significance exactly. But Bill Belichick is a football historian, so he cares a little bit. Like he's got the Art of War in his library at home because he thinks it relates to football so much.
It's like handing a dog an egg, man. It's like, all right, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this.
Handing a dog an egg. It's a great metaphor, analogy. I don't know what the hell that was. DJ in Old Hickory. Who are the winners and losers of the sports weekend?
I was going to talk about the stadium, but having you got to go UT. I don't know how anybody else could say anybody else, but the losers have got to be these freaking prime-time football games in the NFL. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. What do you think?
It's absolutely horrendous, and I don't know why they keep putting Russell Wilson in them. Thank you for the call, DJ. 615-737-1045. You heard the trap door open? There went the ratings last night for Monday Night Football after they set football back. Literally, I have a stat for you later in the show. After they set football back 31 years with how poorly that game was played on the offensive side of the football. Let's go to Chris in Bellevue with winners and losers.
Yes, my winner is Hopkins playing throughout that injury and winning the game for the Chargers.
The kicker.
And my loser is the Denver special teams muffing that punt off, getting thrown into his own player. Thank you for the call, Chris. I would be so betrayed if I was a Denver defensive player. They played incredible. And, of course, all people are saying is it's a horrendous football game to watch.
And they're saying the team stinks. And it's
the
not
team does stink.
The defense is good. And they have offensive weapons.
Oh, yeah. Did you see Jerry Jeudy and Melvin Gordon? An exchange. We don't have the audio of it, obviously, but they clearly looked not happy with the situation. For Russell Wilson, who had a phenomenal first quarter and then went out, just in utter ineptitude for the rest of the game. Started 10 for 10 and like 100 yards and a touchdown to the rookie tight end. And then after that, it was just awful. It was awful to watch. I don't know why he's so bad now. Let's squeeze one more in for winners and losers of the sports weekend for the opportunity to go to Knoxville. How about Darren in White House? Darren.
Hey, the winner has to be Josh Heupel. He sure coached a great game. And the loser, I would have to say, would be the crappy Denver whole team. I mean, golly. Monday Night Football sure ain't been the same.
No, it hasn't been.
Year.
No, well, I don't know about last year. It was equally terrible. Thank you. Thank you for the call, Darren. Just screaming, it sucks into the phone. He's like dealing with something behind the scenes. Thank you for the call, but he's right. All right, Robert Walsh will pick a winner during the break. We'll tell you who that is on the other side, who's heading to Knoxville this weekend. We also need to talk more about just how terrible this Monday Night Football game was, because as I told you, it literally set football back 31 years. I'm going to tell you how coming up next. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling is the company that can take care of all of your HVAC needs. They're also diehard Vols, Preds, Titans fans. They've been working in the local community for over 20 years, providing exceptional customer service for your HVAC needs. New regulations, by the way, as a part of their great customer service. They're out here trying to make sure that people are aware of new regulations that are coming that could increase the price of replacing your older HVAC system by over 20%. You can act now and replace it with Spring Hill Heating and Cooling and get 18 months with no payments or up to $1,500 off your new HVAC system. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling is always backed by a 10-year parts and labor warranty on York products and is also a York certified comfort expert company. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, the heating and cooling company that can take care of all of your HVAC needs. For more information, head to springhillac.com.
What the heck's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh, and former Titans tight end Delanie Walker is going to announce his retirement today, capping off a 14-year NFL career. He spent his first 7 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers, and he signed a free agent deal with the Titans and spent his final 7 years in Tennessee. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler and a 4-time captain for the Titans. And you can check out his retirement ceremony today at 2:30. Regarding the new stadium, the Titans and Mayor John Cooper have reached an agreement to build a new domed stadium. You can check him out on the Buck Reising show today at 12:15. The project is set for a $2.2 billion with a B and needs Metro Council approval. Tonight, you can check out the NHL Kings and Predators 8:30 puck drop at Bridgestone Arena. The Preds are looking to snap a 2-game losing streak after winning 2 on the road in Europe to start the season. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once at your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5, The Zone.
Okay, here we go. Hour number 2. Welcome in, welcome back. We love it if you've been hanging out with us so far. We love it even more if you're just now hopping on. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Robert Walsh and myself, we are here with you until 1 o'clock today. Your phone calls, as always, welcome. 615-737-1045 is the number. Remember that Mayor John Cooper will be here in studio with us at 12:15 to talk about the new Titans Stadium project and the some comments made by him and Titans President Burke Nihill yesterday at a press conference at City Hall. It was weird for me to go to like a press conference where there was actual, news journalism being done. Like I walked in there, dressed how I would be for the radio show. Yes, I had one of those Chubbies T-shirts on that looks like
no.
I look like I look like an absolute D-bag.
This is like when you come home from college and your mom's like, "Come on, we're going to church. We're going to Christmas
Do you know
service."
how many times I've had that conversation with my mom?
And you're wearing like the most college degenerate outfit.
I could not have looked like a bigger tool at City Hall yesterday if I tried.
I love that.
I looked over at Teresa Walker, who has been basically my work mother for the last 7 years.
Bless her.
Yeah, truly. I said it. I mean, honestly, they're lucky I had pants on today because normally I'm running around in those like 5-inch inseam shorts.
I was about to say you hate to see it, but
no, it was pretty funny. Honestly, it was a tough scene. Sometimes you forget that not everybody works in radio and dresses like a homeless person every day. So there's that. But to be a part of that press conference was interesting, and I know a lot of you guys have questions for Mayor Cooper that we will get to here in just a second. But I want to start with this Monday Night Football game, okay? Because it was horrendous. For a variety of different reasons. The Broncos and the Chargers ultimately winning in overtime, but a game that was not aesthetically pleasing by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to tell you why it's relevant for the Tennessee Titans here in a second, because that's just how I watch the rest of these games at this point. You all know this. Just trying to look for a connection based on what we see on a weekly basis, on a day-to-day basis from the local professional football team. And what I observed last night was nothing short of an apocalypse, both of coaching and from Russell Wilson and frankly Justin Herbert, who I've had this problem for a while now, and Lucas has tried to get me to work through this issue. It's almost like sports radio therapy. A little bit, where I keep wanting the Titans to be something offensively that they're just never going to be. And at a certain point, I have to accept that and move on with my life and stop complaining so much about it. But, the Chargers are theoretically the team that I want the Titans to look like. But here's why it's just a theoretical. Because they don't actually look like that team either. I really like the idea of what Justin Herbert can be and what he seems to be from time to time, just because he's an incredible talent. But, I'm watching him check it down to all hell last night and just screaming at him. There's a tight end wide open. Number 7, Gerald Everett, is wide open when you need 35 yards to set up a field goal. and you get spooked by something that you see in coverage and you just check it down again as somebody hits you again in the chest because you've held the ball too long. It was like the Chargers, the idea of the Chargers every year, I think it gets people. Every year. And then their roster gets ravaged by injury, and they do the thing that Phillip Rivers did for basically a decade and a half as a member of the Chargers, where he's perpetually in a game where he's down 6 with 45 seconds left to go on the clock. He has the entire length of the field to drive, and then, oh my God, he throws the death pick. Like Phillip Rivers has been playing that game his entire career, and Chargers fans have lived that experience their entire career. And they haven't figured out a way around it. And then there's Russell Wilson, who just objectively sucks this season. Stinks.
And you could try to blame, and he's trying to avoid this, but you could blame the shoulder injury. He had a hamstring injury last night.
Bleep him and his PR people for that. Like, I'm not one for injury shaming players, but do not conveniently give me, after you look terrible again and you miss what would have been a game-winning touchdown throw the week prior, don't have somebody in your party leak it to Adam Schefter that you've been dealing with a shoulder injury. Bleep off.
I do think it's hilarious that his tenure in Seattle was kind of commented by him being, I need offensive line help. I'm having to run around every play. And then what has he done the first 6 weeks with the Broncos? Just get sacked. Just be put on his back over and over again, relentlessly. So the pastures are not always greener, especially when you make the team that traded for you trade away all their future assets that could potentially make your team better in the future.
I want to do this probably in the next segment, but I want to look at some of the most disappointing free agency signings this year, because I have people. There is such a low hit rate for a lot of the most popular free agent and trade acquisitions that John Robinson here locally has made, like Julio Jones, Jadeveon Clowney. Like, there's a lot of these players out there that were, PR home runs, and then they sucked when they got here. Some of the worst player decisions or personnel moves that ended up happening were some of the most popular decisions on the front end. And I want to go through who that is across the league this season later on. But here's the number that I was promising you, or the statistic that I was promising you, as to how this game literally set football back 31 years, and it comes from NFL research last night. Justin Herbert is the second quarterback since 1950 with 55 passing attempts and 0 passing touchdowns in a win. The only other instance was, can anybody guess? Robert, do you know the answer to this question?
I didn't even hear you ask the question.
I can't get a producer to listen to the show. Lucas tells me he listens about half the show. Robert's just completely ignoring me.
I had to answer a call. I had to text back my mother.
This is Russell Wilson's agent leaking information about a Russell Wilson shoulder injury.
I have a hamstring injury.
It's too much space back there. It's too much. He's not equipped for this kind of lateral movement. Some full-on crab shuffle back there for the Zone TV audience. Are you also on camera?
I am. I couldn't put 2 on you, so would much rather both cameras be on you than me. I got in radio because I don't like the way I look, especially on camera. And then I get in here and everybody gets to see me every day. The only thing I got is a nice little for them.
Oh,
look at that. Some guns.
An audio medium. Nobody can hear you grunt other than grunting viscerally into the microphone. Okay.
That was a good shoulder check for you.
I can't wait to have one of the local politicians on this radio show after he's done nothing but...
I will sit quietly over here.
Back to the shadows. Here's the stat. Anyway, Justin Herbert, the second quarterback since 1950 with 55 plus passing attempts and 0 passing touchdowns in a win. The only other instance was Oilers quarterback and Hall of Famer Warren Moon, Week 11, 1991, an overtime win over the Dallas Cowboys. They literally set football back 31 years last night. And they won. Like, you mentioned Brandon Staley, winner of the weekend, because he was not even the dumbest coach on his own on a sideline last night. That prestigious award goes to Nathaniel Hackett, who just, God, get him out of my
hack it. He just can't hack it, man.
Oh. No.
What's worse, that joke or his...
Farley. Give me Caleb Farley. Where is it? Send that joke into the sun. He just can't hack it?
He can't.
What kind of sideshow comedy shtick are you doing back there?
The best one I can do. The best one I can do.
What a sad state of affairs this radio show is in. Anyway, so with Russell Wilson in mind, and keeping in mind a lot of the personnel decisions that I've seen people clamoring for John Robinson to make, I want to go through this list of the most disappointing free agents through 6 weeks of the NFL season so far on their new teams. And I'd be curious to think or to know who you think fits that bill. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved with the conversation. We can also talk about the Titans Stadium project. I know many of you have further questions on that, and we will get to those as well here on 1045 The Zone.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Welcome back. So, disappointing just football in general last night. I saw the Chargers official account tweet out, "We're going to overtime." And I thought in my head, who's we? I'm not going with you. I'm going over to Netflix. I'm going to watch another episode of The Crown. I'm in season 2. It's great right now. Thank you for the pity laugh. You could not have been less convincing to get me to keep watching that game, and yet I'm sure we all did because just football. The addiction is deeply problematic. It's to a certain extent, and yet we continue to do it. So whatever. So let's talk about legitimate transactions that got us to this point, shall we? Because are a lot of these free agent decisions that looked like an off-season. I mean, it felt like an off-season arms race. And you know that to a certain extent, there's a lot of things that go into these decisions that lead them to not pan out the way that you may necessarily want them to pan out. It's not a perfect science, just as the draft is not a perfect science. But as I sit here, about 2.5, 3 weeks away from the NFL trade deadline, and I get tweets about DJ Moore, who else can the Titans acquire? Why aren't the Titans doing more? Why don't they care more about their wide receivers? I'm going to get to you Josh Gordon people here in a second. Don't think I don't have something for you at 11:45 today, because finally I get to claim victory. And you know how much I like to tell myself that I'm right. But in the meantime, some teams that got it wrong significantly with some pretty substantial transactions. Now, Russell Wilson was not a free agent. Russell Wilson was acquired via trade, and I also factored the players that were traded for into this mix as well, because I think there's some pretty critical pieces and parts that are revolving around this. There is not a more disappointing free agent acquisition, or rather player acquisition, this NFL offseason than Russell Wilson. I don't know where his presence in the pocket has gone. He is doing the Carson Wentz, Joe Burrow thing of creating more of his own pressure than the pressure that is actually being applied to him in the pocket. He had, coming into last night's game, and I know he threw a 37-yard touchdown to the tight end? Or no, the completion to Judy was 37 yards, and then he threw another deep completion to the tight end. It was a catch-and-run completion as opposed to a deep pass. Either way, 2 nice plays, whatever. The rest of it has largely been slop so far this season. They gave up so much to go get him. They are paying him so much money to be 2-4 and languishing in a division that is obviously beating the holy hell out of itself, but still has the clearly and obviously better teams rising to the top in the Chiefs, who did lose on Sunday, and the Chargers, who got a win that, frankly, no team should have won that game last night. There's not a more disappointing acquisition, though, than Russell Wilson. I want you to hear him talk about division in the locker room, because everybody saw the camera shot of Melvin Gordon, who your boy Nathaniel can't hack it.
Boo! You can't boo me. I'm going to boo you back. Boo!
It's such a bad joke. Did somebody give that to you? Did you think of that on the fly? Because it is bad enough to be good.
I love that. I think I've been saying it since their week 1 loss to Seattle, because I put a bag on the Broncos thinking that they would cover, and they did not, and I have been mad at the Broncos ever since.
No, you can't do the analysis based on who lost you the most money on Sunday.
I can, and I will. Bleep them. I don't like the Broncos anymore.
I don't like the Broncos either, but that's not because it has anything to do with gambling. It's because they play a horrendous style of football right now. But when you look at the Russell Wilson acquisition, I want you to hear him talk about division in the locker room. Because it's just, at a certain point, he's either disingenuous or he's just he's lying to himself. I don't know who he's lying more to. This is Russell Wilson after losing last night.
No, we don't have division in our locker room. I mean, you guys saw how hard we played for each other tonight. I mean, everybody, it didn't go our way, but everybody's fighting their butts off every day. The guys up front, all line, receivers, tight ends, running backs, the defense, the defensive line, linebackers, and just, I mean, our safeties and corner. I mean, everybody's playing for each other. We felt like we could have won the game, and then we had the fluke play at the end, and we still felt like we could, right before that play, we still felt like we could have won the game, and it didn't work out. And but everybody's together. We still believe in everything that we can do. we got to find ways to continue to make plays and score touchdowns and do that. I thought like I said, that first quarter and really the end of the second quarter to get all the way down there. That's us. But we got to bring that every time, and it can't be anything less.
So that was Russell Wilson last night.
That boy got Matt Rule syndrome. And I know y'all probably don't listen to a lot of Matt Rule up here, but Matt Rule liked to lie through his teeth. And when he talked like this, I'll give you a little example.
No, we don't have division in our locker room. I mean, you guys saw how hard we played for each other.
How hard we? When you can't say the truth, when you can't talk, and it just come out, it's not the truth. He's lying through his teeth. And it's obvious. He can't even finish talking about, we got a scoreboard total, we got to get more points on the board, he's just coach speaking.
He could get away with it if there wasn't the visual for the entirety of the country who suffered through that game long enough to see Jerry Jeudy and a bench Melvin Gordon looking at each other and gesturing with their hands towards the field in ways that would indicate division, in ways that would indicate frustration. We're all together? No, bleep you, Russell. Let's ride. What are you talking about?
He did not end his press conference last night with Broncos country, let's ride.
I can't believe he was still doing that last week.
When they lost, even in losses, he's still going. He did not tonight, though.
You know what? But he regretted it when he did it last week because it was like he was already kind of away from the microphone and he just kind of looked over and off mic whispered, let's ride. Let's ride. Just whispering.
I'm just going to use it to interrupt you.
It's a nightmare for them because this is not like a this year problem. This is like a 5-year problem. This has the potential to set your franchise back because they have not gotten the quarterback situation right since Peyton Manning. Since Peyton Manning won that Super Bowl, back in 2015? Either way, they have had a revolving door at quarterback, and there's no confidence to indicate that they still know what they're doing because they went out and did the big move. They went out and got Russ. Let Russ cook, and Russ is out here doing microwave dinners and missing wide open tight ends in the middle of the field.
He's cooking those macaroni. You throw them in the microwave. He's just not putting any water in. Adding the powder, add the macaroni, and just throw it in the microwave. Let's ride. Let's cook.
It makes me so happy that the Let's Ride voice is just floating, a haunting in the background, just a haunted Let's Ride filled with all kinds of regret. Jared in White House is next. Hello, Jared.
Hey, how y'all doing, man?
We're great, Stud.
Let's talk about how bad Russell Wilson needs Pete Carroll.
Please do.
I mean, he can't. Russell Wilson has turned to one of the elites to just straight slaw. Oh, my God. Did you see the tight end he missed wide open?
Yes, I did. In fact, I just mentioned it.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
All right. Let's, Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, wasn't he like one of the saviors in Green Bay as an offensive coordinator?
Well, I don't know if he was a savior. He was talked about as somebody who was very highly regarded. You're correct there, Jared. Absolutely. But did you see the Aaron Rodgers stuff yesterday?
Happened?
Oh,
what the hell happened?
It's a great question. I love the passion in his voice. Thank you for the call, Jared. We appreciate it.
We got to get him out of here before he tells us what the hell happened.
He also sounds like he's losing money on the Broncos.
Dude, it's a terrible boat to be in.
God, they have 7 primetime games this year.
They thought they were going to be so good, Buck.
Who asked for that? No, I don't want Russell, even like peak Russell Wilson, even Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson. I don't want them on my television 7 times a year.
This is the exact definition of see yourself become a villain or live long enough to become a villain, whatever the hell that saying is. Remember when he used to be so heralded as like this underrated top 5 quarterback. He's always 5. And now he's just, what is he? He's floating around in the oblivion with nothing.
There were credible people screaming at the NFL, brain trust, cognoscenti, whatever you want to call them, why Russell Wilson hadn't won an MVP yet. And turns out Russell Wilson was actively undermining things in Seattle and changing plays at the line of scrimmage. Like, no, we're not going to run Marshawn Lynch on the one, which is what Richard Sherman doing Thursday night football games, one of which Russ has been a part of a horrendous one between the Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos, Richard Sherman is out here with PTSD on the set of the Amazon Prime post-game show screaming, "Run the damn ball."
On the final play, you got to run the ball. Again, like, I mean, I wish I had Marshawn up here. Like, 1 yard. You need 1 yard. Run the ball. Run the ball. CT.
He's triggered.
All he has to do is run the football. Like, necessary criticism. I'm not, I've said enough criticism for him, but God dang it, run the dang ball. Like, learn from your mistakes.
Can somebody fill me in? What is he referring to?
I'm confused. Have you been in this situation before?
Run the ball.
The amount of anger and angst in that man's voice. A one-time Super Bowl champion, Richard Sherman, who could easily have been two if Russell Wilson had not, wanted to be the hero of the game.
Those fingers could have been a whole lot heavier if they'd have done what they were supposed to do.
So, is there a more disappointing personnel decision in the NFL? I understand it's not a full season, but I can't look at, like, Julio Jones going to the Bucs. I don't think anybody who paid attention to Julio last year was looking at that as like, oh, this is going to be the thing that changed the game. Although, by the way, the Bucs equally are struggling, and it's not just because Tom Brady's offensive linemen are hurt. He's flying off to Robert Kraft's surprise wedding on a Thursday and missing team walkthrough before they go and lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers in ways that, that's probably one of the worst Brady-Bucs losses that there have been.
It's the only time he's ever lost to a rookie quarterback in his entire career.
He was a 9-point road favorite, and they blew it.
Steelers didn't have their entire secondary or Minkah Fitzpatrick. Top three corners and Minkah were out.
So, but there's no, they didn't have the splash free agency signing like the super team Super Bowl winning Super Bowl champion Bucs that went on to win it during the COVID season. They don't really have that this year. I think the most impressive, when they gave Geno Smith a 1-year deal, that's probably the transaction that's paid off the most this offseason. But I can't find a name on this list. I will say, now it's not the same thing, but I will tell you another one that is equally disappointing to the fan base that acquired this player. Austin Hooper has been a net zero for the Tennessee Titans this season.
Put him on a milk carton, dude.
My guy has seen his snap count steadily decrease through these 5 games. He apparently is not good enough as a blocker. He caught a pass against the Commanders when last we saw this team play, but can't for the life of him run through a catch and keep his feet, which I know was a significant frustration of Browns fans while he was being disappointing in Cleveland. I don't like saying that professional athletes, especially football players, calling them soft is not something that I do, because you have to be inherently an insane person to play that sport for money. It's gladiator stuff. It's blood sport. Like, I don't question the toughness of the people who make their living doing it that way. But he appears to not have the requisite, whatever it is, toughness, grit, willingness to run the ball the way that they require the tight ends to block in this offense to continue to earn opportunities here. And that, I think, is one of the most disappointing. I think it's the most disappointing local transaction, outside of the people that were screaming for Tannehill to be released and, of course, didn't get their way because it's nonsense. But I don't think that there was a difference-making personnel decision that a lot of people looked at in the offseason and said, at least it's competency at tight end. At least it's something at tight end that can give them a better chance at making plays from that position. And again, who is the leading tight end for the Tennessee Titans? Your boy Jeff Swaim, who they cannot for the life of them take off the field because Chig's not ready for that all-encompassing role, and Hooper can't play the way that they want to play. It really is a nightmare. Now, there's an article, speaking of Hooper, and I just now saw this because it's on Mike Herndon's timeline. NFL trade deadline 2022. Early buzz rumors, teams that could deal players right now. So the primary mention there is of the Carolina Panthers, who already have fired their coach this season. And, the Matt Rule experience has not been something that anybody would call a success right now. But on here is also the Tennessee Titans about the idea of trade acquisitions and trade candidates on rosters currently. The Tennessee Titans are a team that is mentioned. Jeremy Fowler, who has reported this out, says Tennessee Titans tight end Austin Hooper is a name to keep an eye on. This is completely independent of the conversation that we were having today. It just happened to scroll past my timeline as I saw Hooper's name on the spot track list, indicating how bad these guys or how disappointing these guys have been. So for Austin Hooper, a player that could make sense to move on from. He's not giving them anything in the passing game. He's got 5 catches for 66 yards. Apparently, he's the worst blocker among all 4 of the tight ends. For those of you who forgot that Kevin Rader also plays here and is getting more play time, both because he plays special teams and because he's willing to block the way that they want him to. Chig, I think, needs to be a bigger part of the offense. I think that's been the thing that I think a lot of us are waiting to see to make them a slightly more dynamic. But can they get anything for Austin Hooper? When he's clearly been relegated on their depth chart. They got a need at left tackle, but who's going to look at even a passable left tackle? Somebody better than Dennis Staley, who has been just an unholy nightmare. Who's going to look at Austin Hooper and be like, yeah, I'll give you a decent offensive lineman for that guy? I don't think there's a team in the league who's looking at anything he's done the last 3 seasons. The 2 that he was in Cleveland, and understanding that 2021 was impacted significantly by Baker Mayfield's injuries. He's not done anything better here. Maybe as an organization you want it out there. Hey, we might move on from Austin Hooper. Anybody want him? Anybody? Anybody at all? Somebody. Anybody.
We can't be negative this whole time, right? Some free agents, some trades have worked out positively.
Oh, buddy, Tyreek Hill is a revelation there. Now, I know they're 3-3, and they're it's ironic because they start off 3-0. They are in the headlines for basically a month about, brain damage to the quarterbacks, both of the quarterbacks that they have between Bridgewater and Tua. And now you are dealing with a situation where that they're back at the bottom of the division, despite starting 3-0. AFC East, obviously with the Bills, the Patriots can, surprise anybody at any given point. I can't get a read on them to save my life. But alongside the Jets, who are 4-2 and out here trolling the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau with Sauce Gardner wearing a cheesehead hat running around out there. I do think Tyreek Hill has made a substantial difference in what that offense is as far as how it threatens you, how it stresses you in a defense. The Devontae Adams trade does not look good, obviously, or the Devontae Adams deal does not look good. Now, you're playing the results there, and the Raiders were off this past weekend, but we most recently saw them in a loss to Kansas City where he didn't make the play that could have tied the game, and their coach, made a questionable decision to go for 2 rather than play for overtime, and he wanted the win in regulation, which as far as entertainment value, I respect it, but I know that's come under a lot of criticism here lately. Let's talk about a personnel decision that did not pan out here in Tennessee, and they moved on from this particular player yesterday. Many of you had questions about the usage or lack thereof of Josh Gordon by the Tennessee Titans, and now that will not come to fruition. I'll tell you why coming up next. So let's talk about this Titans wide receiver core, because a lot of you guys have been out of shape today. And listen, it may be a vocal minority. I understand that. But there's also legitimate concerns that are reasonable to address, because yesterday it was reported, I believe first by John Glennon of Sports Illustrated, that Josh Gordon was going to be released from the team's practice squad, not signed by another team, as many of them are, from a practice squad to another team's active roster, but just a flat out, the team saying, hey, we got nothing here. There's nothing there for us to work with. We think we can get something out of somebody else. They don't care what his name is. They move on. And immediately the howls on social media about how could they get Josh Gordon out of here without ever giving him a legitimate chance to play. And I feel like I've become so annoying with this, Robert, because I feel like I've been saying the same thing since he got here. Don't tell me that Josh Gordon at 31 years old and 10 years removed from his massive Browns 1,000-yard season is any kind of a good player. That's just simply not the case, flatly not the case. Don't tell me that the coaching staff who is evaluating this guy every day beyond, physical specimen that Josh Gordon clearly is, don't look at me and say that he's capable of beating out Cody Hollister even. Because I'm watching him at practice, and Cody Hollister goes through the drills that Josh Gordon does. Josh Gordon maybe looks better doing them, but it doesn't translate to the field anymore. They don't trust him more than they trust a Cody Hollister. Hell, they brought Des Fitzpatrick up against the Commanders. He was their practice squad elevation. And in so doing, said to everybody, yeah, we don't like Josh Gordon as much as we like the fourth-round pick who just can't sniff the active roster under almost any circumstance other than we need a body, so get him out there. And, I've never understood why that's been so hard to get across, whether it's Golden Tate, because we went through this last year, whether it's Josh Gordon. I know there have been other disappointing big-name Titans at wide receiver that a lot of people associate this with. It's not Andre Johnson at the end. It's not even Randy Moss, for as unimpressive as that tenure was here. Josh Gordon is not a good football player anymore. And so when they move on from him yesterday, and there's not even a corresponding transaction. He was a practice squad player. It didn't open up a roster spot. So they didn't have to do anything with him. They just said, thank you for your time. We'd like to see somebody else. And that somebody else is currently C.J. Board, who was signed off the Giants practice squad in moving, on from Josh Gordon. So basically the Titans are saying, yeah, we're good. Just going to roll with it. We'll call Dez up as need be. I don't know if that means an opportunity for Mason Kinsey. I know there's a small cult following that wants to see him in action. Okay, fine, whatever. Maybe it's C.J. Board. I don't know. He just got here. He may be somebody that they like better than what they got on the roster. But for the most part, it's NWI. It's Robert Woods. It's Traylon Burks whenever he gets back. And by the way, it's not 4 weeks. It's 4 games. So he will miss at least the Colts on Sunday, on the road for Houston, and Kansas City on Sunday night.
And the thing I think that CJ offers that Josh Gordon doesn't is the special teams versatility. CJ Board was with the Ravens, with the Giants, and he was a prominent gunner on both of their preseason special teams units. So maybe that's what they see with him. They're like, look, we're not really getting anything special team-wise from Josh. So maybe if we bring in Board, we can get some special team stuff, and he can give us some reps at wide receiver on practice squad. So kind of cutting the minutia, and you get both sides rather than just an offensive player.
No, absolutely. The special teams is such an important part of this equation. Because I think a lot of people said, okay, they're getting rid of Josh Gordon. Maybe they're going to make a move at wide receiver. DJ Moore, DJ Moore, DJ Moore. Say it 3 times fast. No, stop it. Stop it.
And then everyone is going to be inevitably super irritated when the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know if you saw this today, they shifted some of Travis Kelce's money.
I did see this.
To make about $3.5 million in cap space. That's a team where it's like, oh, yeah, they're going to make a move. The teams like the Titans, probably not going to make that move.
Oh, well, I mean, and listen, if they can actually get any traction on the Hooper thing, then we can start to have a larger discussion on what they realistically need to acquire, because left tackle is so much bigger of a need. Just really reinforcements on the left side of that offensive line is such a much bigger need right now for them to be able to address than anything at the wide receiver spot, because if you can't keep Tannehill upright, he's going to continue to get battered that way, and he'll miss Traylon Burks for another wide open touchdown the way that he did against the Colts, because he's getting hit as he lets the ball go. So all of this to say, I get yelled at, or I think people get frustrated with me because I'll shoot a lot of this stuff down before it gains any traction. For what? Other than to keep you on the hook unnecessarily? I'm not interested in thirst trapping you with stuff I know is not going to happen. Why are you so interested in it?
The hope. If you're not selling success,
that.
you got to sell hope, man. But I mean, not to steal your show here, but if we're going to be clamoring for a Panthers player, I think someone that would be much more attainable and could help this Titans team, former Notre Dame tight end Tommy Tremble. He didn't really catch a lot of traction. He's not getting a lot of snaps in Carolina. He was a high pick for a reason. He was mostly, when you looked at him in the draft, he was kind of a receiver, tight end, like kind of hybrid. You didn't know how he's going to block. But if you can pull a guy like that in for pennies on the dollar, maybe even a straight-up swap with Hooper, who knows? I think that's a guy that could help the Titans out and wouldn't be as expensive as, say, DJ Moore.
And would help with the blocking element of it. I just don't think they're in the business of trading for another tight end right now when they have legitimate money invested in Jeff Swaim and they're trying to find a larger role. But, I mean, it's, I'm not shooting down options. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, for sure. I get
this. So, ultimately, I'm not expecting a lot of activity. We'll see what happens. We still have time, and there's still discussions to be had. But, for those of you who are frustrated about the Josh Gordon experience, just trust and know that he's not a good football player at this stage in his career. And I don't know how many times you need to be disappointed by guys like that who are just a famous name at the end of what their NFL career has been, to keep you invested and to keep you interested that way. I just don't think that's a productive use of time. Because if you're legitimately interested in how does the football team get better, I can assure you that the answer was at no point Golden Tate or Josh Gordon. 615-737-1045 is how you can jump in. Let's go to Brian in Murfreesboro.
Guys, I just wanted to give my 2 cents about the tight end situation. Obviously, Hooper is garbage. Dolphins came out this morning throwing the idea of taking some offers for Gesicki. I think he'd be a big contribution to the offense. Obviously, he's not the best blocker.
Right,
but
Brian. Well,
he's like another receiver.
Yeah, but they don't do that, right? Like, isn't that the exact reason they wouldn't trade for him?
What's that?
That he doesn't block. Hooper can't get on the field because he doesn't block.
Yeah, he hasn't caught very much either.
Well, because of a lack of opportunity, because he doesn't block. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand. Again, it's the name thing, right? And Gesicki's not getting. You know why Gesicki's not getting in a lot of action in the Miami offense? Because what does George Kittle do as well as any tight end in the league? Thank you for the call, Brian. Kittle is an absolute road grader out there. And Mike McDaniel, who is offensive wonder kid, needs a tight end who can block. He doesn't need Mike Gesicki. Okay, somebody else can take it. I have wide receivers. I have Tyreek Hill. I have Jalen Waddle. I don't need another I don't need a bigger wide receiver. I've got the fastest wide receivers in the sport. So I need somebody that can help me in the other things that I need to do, because they've been not good running the football, and that's something that should be able, in that offense, in that Kyle Shanahan style of outside zone, they should basically be able to take a run game with them wherever they go, right? That's why, they have Raheem Mostert now in Miami. Raheem Mostert was hugely successful in San Francisco as a player because they were able to manufacture a rushing attack. They had George Kittle. They had the line to do that. Miami's line is not out otherworldly, but Teron Armstead's been playing hurt the last couple of weeks, but still, he's made a difference at left tackle. They don't have the complementary tight end piece because they don't use the tight end that way if the tight end can't block. Hooper can't get the opportunity to catch the ball because he's not on the field. Not on the field because he doesn't block. I know that's not sexy, but when you want an explanation for why things happen the way that they do, and you ignore the answer to why they happen the way that they do, I don't know what to tell you. But we'll be able to tell you some stuff about the Titan Stadium because Mayor John Cooper has arrived at the station. He's going to join us in studio coming up next.
What's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. Former Titans tight end Delanie Walker. He's going to announce his retirement today, capping off a 14-year NFL career. He spent his first 7 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers, went to a Super Bowl. Then he signed as a free agent with the Titans and spent his final 7 years in Tennessee. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler and a 4-time captain for the Titans. His announcement for his retirement is set for 2:30 today. And the Titans and Nashville Mayor John Cooper have reached an agreement to build a new dome stadium. He's going to be on with Buck Reising this hour. The project is currently set for $2.2 billion with a B and needs Metro Council approval. The new stadium will be built just east of Nissan Stadium. The Titans are planning for a 2026 opening, but has said that as not a hard deadline. Meanwhile, the team did make some roster moves. Linebacker Ola Adani was placed on injured reserve, and defensive back Josh Thompson was signed to the active roster from Jacksonville's practice squad. Also, Josh Gordon was released from the practice squad and replaced with receiver C.J. Board. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Third hour is upon us. Welcome in. Welcome back. If you've been spending some time with us this morning, we're happy to have you here on 104.5 The Zone. We're going to be pleased to have Mayor John Cooper in the studio with me here in just about 10 minutes from now. So stick around for that as we'll talk about this new Titans Stadium development that they have officially agreed to undertake between the city of Nashville and the Tennessee Titans. It was quite the scene yesterday at City Hall. And I told Robert that I was just absolutely obnoxious in attending a press conference at City Hall like I would go to St. Thomas Sports Park for a practice, in basically a T-shirt and jeans, looking horrendous. But, I think we're going to have the opportunity to redeem ourselves with Mayor Cooper here in studio. Now that I'm back in my environment where I can dress like a slob, but it's okay because it's radio. Everything back on a level playing field. But in the meantime, a lot of different questions that people have had about the stadium situation, and none bigger probably at this point than the PSL discussion, right? The personal seat licenses. The biggest question or comment that I've heard is, well, I have these now. What does that mean 4 years from now? When they're needing to fund a new stadium, because the whole thing is they're alleviating the city tax burden, the city resident burden on what it is to upkeep Nissan Stadium, putting the Titans on the hook for far more of the money than we have had previously in this situation. And now looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to try and make it right. So Burke Nihill was asked about a couple of different things. He was on 3HL. In fact, he was in studio with them yesterday. And I want you to hear from the Titans president on what the Titans are going to do for current PSL holders. Because beyond that, we can get into discussions about capacity, about events that the city of Nashville is trying to attract. But for those of you talking about tickets, here was the Titans team president.
We will be offering a credit to every existing PSL holder that is in line with the value of their original investment. So the year they acquired their PSL, there would be a value on that PSL, and we will issue them a credit for their purchase of a new PSL in a new building in line with that value. So, for example, if a PSL holder bought a PSL for $2,000 in 2015, that PSL holder would be able to take a $2,000 credit into purchasing a PSL in the new building. There will be more details to sort out, and we will communicate those as soon as we have them. But at a minimum, we're ready to communicate that ambition and that promise.
So that's Burke Nihill, Titans team president, talking about this yesterday on 3HL. Now, that may be a sufficient answer for some of you. It may not be a sufficient answer for all of you. I can't tell you how to feel about your PSLs. I don't have PSLs. I go to the game. I sit in the press box. It doesn't matter where the press box is. I'm going to sit in it, and I'm going to watch the game, and that's how I go about my day job. The entire, I know it impacts a lot of different financial decisions because I know these things are not inexpensive. But beyond that, it's just kind of basically, all right, here's the current policy that we have in place. Here's what we intend to honor, and we'll have more information as it becomes available. I think the next thing that people jump to is the capacity of this stadium. Because in talking about this, they made mention of a stadium with a seating capacity between 55 and 60,000 seats, which would be anywhere between, 14 and between 14 and 9,000 seats less, as I do the math in my head, probably wrong. Don't laugh at me, Robert. Thank you for all your. It's just nothing helps you do a radio show.
Carry the one. Where does it go?
Bleep you, pal. All right. Nothing makes you feel more supported than when you're doing a solo radio show than just looking across in the other studio and seeing braying laughter. You throwing your head back because of how bad it is for me to try and do math live.
14 and 9.
Damn it.
14 and 9.
Probably got it wrong. Anyway, it's smaller. All right? That's the point. And it's smaller by a significant number. Like, I think Allegiant is 65. Right now, Lucas Oil is about 67. Now, one of those stadiums has been built far more recently than the other, but NFL stadiums aren't in the business of getting bigger. The NFL has, almost cannibalized its live audience to tailor to the bigger number, right? The bigger number is the people who are not going to games. The bigger number is people who want to sit for 7 hours of commercial-free football and have Scott Hansen whisper sweet nothings into their ear on the NFL Red Zone while they watch all of the games. And not even all of the games, but only the good parts of all of the games. Because it's just scores and low red zone and field goals and all these other things. So now the question becomes, well, is it sufficient to host a Super Bowl? And how realistic that actually is given the kind of capacity limitations that the league has said. The league has said that they would like a 70,000 seat stadium for the opportunity to host the Super Bowl. Now, I'm sure that's not a wholesale policy. In the leaked document that was available to read through the league's, decision making on stuff like this, it is as much about, I think, the luxury suites and the ability to accommodate corporate sponsors as it is the actual capacity of the stadium. And the capacity of the stadium can be influenced by how many luxury boxes there actually are, right? But between 55 and 60,000, that's kind of the sweet spot for an NFL stadium in a market size like the Titans, where, the product on the field has been great, really good to great in the last couple years. But that's only recently. And there's no telling whether they're going to be able to sustain that. So it's as much about preparing for the years when you're not good as it is, entertaining a maximum capacity crowd and beyond just the Titans games, which we're going to talk to Mayor John Cooper about here in just a couple of minutes. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. Before we do break for Mayor Cooper, let's hear from Burke Nihill on how realistic it is that a Super Bowl might be played here in Music City.
Oh, it's entirely realistic. Look, Nashville has proven that we do live events better than really any city in the world, and especially with the location of the stadium.
Right.
These events are not just for that event, right? These events end up being week-long festivals, right? There's just stuff to do around the city. There's free things to do for the entire community. There's just a massive economic impact throughout the entire city. But if you go to a lot of these other cities, it's really spread out, right? It's clogging the highways, and it's hard to get around to all of these events that come to the city for that week. Nashville's different. Nashville, people can come into the airport, take an Uber or a Lyft to a hotel, and walk everywhere for the entire week. In Nashville, with CMA Fest and the 2019 NFL Draft, we have proven we do live events better than anybody. So absolutely, when there's a building of the quality of the building that we're talking about, there's no question that these events are coming.
And that's the whole goal. That's honestly what I'm most interested to talk to Mayor Cooper about. Because obviously we run things through the prism of football, and it is inherently a football stadium. But there's so many more things that this impacts. This facility, not just Tennessee Titans games on any given Sunday, Thursday, or Monday night, not just, preseason games or TSU games and things like that, but how many different global scale events does this now give us the opportunity to host? And what does that mean for the continued growth of Nashville? We've talked to Butch Spearden about this before. The idea that if you are not growing, you are inherently dying as a city. And a lot of the complaints, I understand them. And that's not even as somebody who's, native here. I'm one of the things that you hate, right? I'm a transplant. I've come in here. I've been here for about 7 years. I love it here. Many people do. Turns out this is a phenomenal place to live. And it's not stopping anytime soon. I know that bothers a lot of people who have spent their entire lives here, who don't like what Nashville has become, all these different things. But the inevitable is the growth. And the thing that Mayor Cooper said yesterday that really jumped out to me is that they are actively invested in the ability to continue that growth but do it well. And we're going to talk to him about why this facility, not just a stadium, but the facility factors into that plan for the city of Nashville, coming up next.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Most certainly. Let's see if we can avoid embarrassing ourselves in front of Mayor John Cooper, who joins us in studio now. Big exciting news in the city of Nashville. The Titans and the city have agreed on this new stadium project, this plan to implement with a timeline right now targeting August of 2026, and people are absolutely abuzz about it. We're very grateful to have Mayor John Cooper in studio.
Well, Buck, it's grateful to be here. I mean, thank you, and thank you for listening in to our press conference yesterday, and I'm grateful for all the public interest in the announcement.
So, as you kind of work through this process, from your perspective, I think for people who did not have the opportunity to hear the press conference yet or have not read some of the materials that have been out there, whether it's by Nate Rouse reporting at Axios or everything else that the mayor's office and the team put out yesterday, why is this the right decision for the city of Nashville at this time?
Oh, well, thank you. The fact is our old contract on Nissan Stadium really was going to be very expensive for taxpayers. We were obligated to a first-class stadium and maintenance, and a report came in over the weekend to my office that it was going to cost our taxpayers between $1.75 to $1.95 billion to fulfill the contract that was out there. Now, we knew that was going to happen because the cost increase has not been a secret, so we've been preparing for a different approach, and the different approach is to get a better stadium, a domed stadium, with team money and tourism money, state money technically, but that's really a reinvestment back with tourism dollars into a tourism facility. And so to get a better stadium, and then the city of Nashville gets a much better deal, that we stop having to subsidize out of our general fund support for the stadium and, in fact, get a well-maintained, domed stadium that's really going to bring a lot of activity to Nashville, and the land back. So currently, Nissan sits on all these flat parking acres. That really was valueless asset to the city. Out of the deal, we get the land back, and then we get a foundation for our East Bank plan, which is going to be a transportation boulevard and parks and greenways and affordable housing. All the excitement of the next great chapter in Nashville can begin to be achieved by getting the land back. So it's a better financial deal. You get the land back, and the city gets a better facility. Sometimes I say it's three separate billion-dollar swings, all in the city's favor, because we've got $1 billion liability in the current stadium. That's we're getting rid of that. We're going to be owning because of the pass-through vehicle, the state taxes are being directed through our sports authority, but we're going to own a $2 billion present value dome that's going to be well-maintained in the future because some of that taxing is going to go to maintain it. And then the third $1 billion swing is we get all this land back, which is what all these stadiums and domes around the country want to have, is the development, is the activity around the land. But because we own it, we can put that to really good use for the city. Transportation, green space, parks, affordable housing are going to be key to that. So all that happens before the East Bank plan, which really creates a next era for neighborhood connectivity. You know, I-24, and sorry, Buck, I'm so excited about this to keep going on.
You're better at radio than I am, Mayor.
So
you got it
covered. All this, I-24 cut off the East Bank, it cut off our neighborhoods. Nobody lives there. There's a reason. This allows you to begin to connect neighborhoods with this north-south transit boulevard that'll run over right where the current stadium is. That's the right location for it. So when you build a dome, then you take down Nissan, then you're able to put in this boulevard. Then hopefully that boulevard will run in time down to Murfreesboro Road and get you out to the airport, then connect up to Dickerson and all these other neighborhoods that have been cut off by I-24. And you want to know an incredible thing about this dome? This creates a set of events. This sounds amazing, but TDOT will confirm it, that helps I-20 traffic on I-24 and I-40. That once you have that boulevard, it's actually going to help commuters get around Nashville. And so you got just a whole lot of benefits. And the fact that the team and tourism is paying for the stadium is very important, but just part of the whole deliverables for Nashville. So thank you, Buck, for letting me go on a bit. You can see I just think it's the future of our city is wrapped up in this event.
Well, and that I think is the part of this that I want to hear articulated for people in the audience, because it's not easy to look beyond, what exactly is in front of us right now. And there's a lot of different detail to that.
And it's way beyond football. So there'll be football-like events. I think you get the college football playoffs there and maybe March Madness, but you're going to have concerts, you're going to have activation, you're going to have a park setting for this event that's going to be accessible to the public. You're going to get transportation. And for affordable housing needs sites and it needs resources. And this deal on the East Bank is going to be able to provide both sites and resources for very important deliverables like affordable housing going forward in the future. So with smart growth planning on the East Bank and bringing that into our tax base, it's a fabulous moment. And again, I'm grateful to football making this happen, but you want to know how all this got kicked off is with Oracle. You've got $1.5 billion campus going up the river. That's going to need connectivity and transportation. If you extend your vision down to the end of the East Bank and locate the football facility in the right place, you've really got something amazing going in terms of community building. And then I'm so grateful that the team is willing to accept so much of the financial responsibility for doing this. This is not the old Nashville where we gave land and we built stadiums and we covered the maintenance. I think a lot of people are critical of that. If you're critical of that, then this deal is for you, because in this case, the team is shouldering the financial responsibility along with tourist dollars that are being redirected through the state. They're taking over the maintenance responsibility for the stadium, relieving us of all this kind of billion-dollar liability, and then this allows a much better urban core planning for the future of Nashville. So
football is the vehicle for all of this.
Football is,
as opposed to being the primary reason, the vehicle for why a lot of these dominoes are able to fall into place.
It is. I mean, I'm a huge fan, but it is not really about football. It is about a better facility serving a better Nashville that's enabled by this, and taking the financial pressure off of the city and turning the land around it into a big winner. What other city gets to own a really important part of its kind of urban core? And then the next phase will be to make the most out of that to create this just super exciting city.
You mentioned the idea of affordable housing and how critical a part of this plan it is. I guess a lot of people in the audience, the question that I've received on that point is what I guess qualifies as affordable housing in Metro Nashville right now? Because obviously the definition of that has changed substantially along with our rapid growth.
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and there are technical definitions for it, basically related to median income. Well, that's a pretty good definition because median means everybody right at the 50%, half or more, half or less, right at the median. Are those families at or below median income? Do they have effective and good housing choices? That really is about supply. How is the city making sure that enough supply is built at that price point? Now, some of it ends up going to be supported by our partners. When you get into affordable housing, there often requires to be some government incentive or help into doing it. But all this used not to be a city responsibility. It used to be a state and a federal responsibility. Now it's driven right back to the state. We're the last resort. We're the first responder. Hey, nobody else is doing housing. You need to do housing. Well, what are our resources as a city to do housing all of a sudden? I mean, we've got schools to support. We've got public safety to support. So making expert use of your assets, such as land around a sports stadium, gives you access to resources that you would not otherwise have that allows you to support an affordable housing initiative.
Mayor John Cooper is in studio with us talking about the Titan Stadium project and everything else that goes in to the planning and the decision-making and all of this. I guess, Mayor Cooper, is with a lot of these new stadium plans being implemented in a lot of different cities, was there how many different sample sizes did you guys look at around other NFL cities that were comparable to Nashville? Is there a situation comparable to what went into this process?
Well, I think I look forward to the Titans in the coming weeks kind of talking about their design process on the stadium. This stadium will be designed by one of the big names in the stadium design business, the Manica Design Studios out of the Midwest. They did Allegiant. They did the Golden State Warriors facility in San Francisco. They're going to be just super proud of this being really their best work. And with us and the Titans, Burke's comments in the press conference are very true. It's a very Nashville-focused facility. It's going to have glass and accessibility. It's really going to be an event venue where football games are also played rather than just a football facility that has to be massively reworked to have concerts. And Nashville has a lot of need for this kind of bigger platform. The CMAs are just incredible success every year. That's clearly growing. The ability to use that platform for the city is one of the reasons why the hospitality industry has been so supportive of this deal. And we're grateful that 1% extra hotel tax is going to help fund this stadium. That's tourists coming here and paying a little bit more for their hotel rooms. The difference between 6% and 7% is not so great. I don't think it's going to keep anybody away, but it's going to keep an investment going into the city, something that we can all use and all benefit from, that it's not just a football stadium primarily anymore. It's this event platform.
You mentioned in your comments yesterday with Burke Nihill, the Titans team president, the idea of, the growth in Nashville is something that obviously there's a lot of discussion about on both the positive side and negative from people who have, been here for a long time and have a certain feeling about everything that's happening around them. But I think the point that I wanted to be able to get across to our audience today that you made yesterday is about the idea of growing well within this thing that seems to be clearly inevitable for us as a city, among one of the fastest growing cities in the country right now.
Yeah, our ambivalence about growth, I understand. I'm part of that. It's hard for me, kind of an old Nashville person, to see all of this change. But
I'm one of these problems, by the way. I'm a transplant.
But we're also a very hospitable city to everybody, and that's part of our own who we are is Athens of the South, and tolerant and inclusive community. So growth is a challenge, and who knew we would be having so much growth? But we can't. I don't think it's an option to go back. What you have to do is invest in growth and come up with plans that you grow into being a better city on the other end, that you're able to build more housing, to have more connectivity, to have transportation work. And that means you got to be very good with your resources and not spend them in areas like on football stadiums where you don't have to spend them anymore, where you have a great team is willing to be a partner and shoulder some of the financial load that the city used to be taking and take advantage of that moment. And have sort of a harvest on our growth that has come. Harvest the tourist taxes that come in. Help that pay for stuff that makes our residents' lives better. Design a better city with greenways and connectivity that ends up having all these neighborhood nodes that get invested in, that has connectivity between everything. I think we can do it, and we owe it to the generations that came before us that got Nashville to this place, to take it all the way into being really just the best city in the country. And this domed facility is a step. It's a step in that. It's a much better deal financially. It protects the city. It's a much better facility, but it gives us this East Bank vision of connectivity back to neighborhoods and the ability to invest in needs such as affordable housing, again, that you just could not do otherwise. There are no benefits to the city unless you have an East Bank plan. So right now, where it is kind of flat parking lots for the next 17 years. It's kind of, industrial facility. There's a truck stop there. This is not the best of Nashville. We can come up with a plan that really is so exciting with the best of Nashville, but it does require moving that stadium a little bit further back for that plan to work. And so as we build the dome and you'll run 2 facilities, Nissan Stadium, until you know the dome can be completed, and then that can come down and you can put in all these other community benefits.
Mayor John Cooper in studio with us, talking about the Titan Stadium development plan. The goal of August 2026 for the team to be able to use the facility, it strikes, I think, myself included, a lot of people as ambitious, given all the different things that go into that. And of course, a lot of it's unforeseen. But how confident are you guys in being able to accomplish that goal, both as a team and as the city?
Well, I'm pretty confident if we can get started, right, that you need a good start date. Hopefully that's in December of this year when the council passes this event. Then, I mean, the Titans, frankly, have been spending money and working on this path. Now they can completely dedicate it. Now it's going to take about basically a year to do the plans and then 2 years to build. You could not delay much and still think that you could get to an August 26 date. But I think all the professionals involved in the project do feel that that is possible. We're blessed to have really good people working on it, and I'm taking their word that if we get out of the gate by December, they can get it done by August 26th.
Mayor John Cooper has been kind enough to spend some of his time with us this afternoon. Mayor, we're grateful for your time, and thank you for being willing to come in and expand further. I know there's not a lot of. I know you don't do a lot of appearances like this, but we're happy to have you in studio.
Well, Buck, it's great to be here. Have me back. And again, please forward any questions that your audience has. It's just very important for the public to understand why this is just a much better deal for Nashville. And it's not just about football. In fact, football is kind of the least of the deliverables. It may not be for your audience listening, but for the whole community. It's not just about football, but it is a much better stadium, and it's hugely a much better deal. And we're getting out of more than $1 billion, maybe a $2 billion liability for the city by making the Titans and the basically tourism end up paying for a much better facility for our community.
And certainly, I'm sure you will receive a lot of that feedback over the course of the next couple months. We'll take a quick break, wrap up the show. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Buddy Allen Carpet One will take care of your home renovation needs just as they have done for Middle Tennesseans for the last 55 years. As a locally owned and operated business, you will not get better customer service anywhere than you will at Buddy Allen Carpet One. The Allen family always in their storefront to make sure that you have a face to put with that level of customer service from your first conversation through post-installation. They want to make sure that you 100% love the project after it is completed. Very few places have the kind of guarantee that Buddy Allen Carpet One offers. If they finish the project and you're not 100% in love with it, they will replace that project for free. It's the beautiful guarantee, as they call it, only at Buddy Allen Carpet One. 2405 Lebanon Pike in Donaldson is where you go, or online at BuddyAllenCarpet1.com. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, they will make sure that you get your testosterone levels checked the way that all men should do every year. I didn't know that getting your testosterone levels checked was a part of your annual routine men's health, but that was something that I learned from my friends at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Low testosterone can affect so many things in your day-to-day. Just a general feeling of being run down. Maybe your sex drive's a little lower than it used to be. You're just generally sluggish. It may affect your mood. For only $99, you can get a testosterone and PSA test at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and in a matter of minutes, you'll know your numbers. Tennessee Men's Clinic is reinventing men's health care every day, and prioritizing your health has never been more important. So visit them online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Oh 45 The Zone. Buck Reising here with you until 1 o'clock. A lot of feedback there on social media, on the phone lines. We'll take some of your calls here in just a second. 615-737-1045. And honestly, Robert, I'm kicking myself because I thought we got to almost everything on the list of things that I wanted to talk to Mayor Cooper about, except I see Larry in Nashville's call about baseball, and it did not occur to me to talk about that in the discussion around so much football and other things about how it relates to the larger portion of the city. What are you laughing about? What are you laughing about?
You should also be kicking yourself because we did not put the polls out today.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
I told you I was going to do that. See,
New studio groove, man. We got to get into it.
no, we can't tell Lucas that I did that because Lucas always done the polls, and then that means that I need him.
I won't tell him.
I won't either.
Okay, cool. We're just going to keep this between me and you.
Thank God nobody listens.
Yeah. I'll figure something out for the polls. How about that? And you just worry about doing the show.
Okay, what? Idiot. I tell Robert, there's a million different things Robert has to do. We're in a new studio. It's beautiful. We're very happy with it. But, obviously Robert is doing a hell of a lot more work back there than I am. And I said, Lucas handles the polls. I said, don't worry about it. I'll do the polls. And what do I do? I'll do the polls.
I scoured your Twitter. I was like, maybe I'm not a super follower. Do I have to be a super follower to do the polls?
I do have the ability to do super follows. Nothing will make me more pretentious on Twitter than the ability to charge people money for my tweets.
I need to know the type of person that is super following anyone and what kind of. It's basically OnlyFans Twitter. You would be an OnlyFans artist for Twitter.
Which, at least I would then be benefiting financially from how much time I spent on that godforsaken app for zero money.
I would love to see your screen time a week. Like, what is it a day?
It was down about 60% because of the bye week, but still averaging about 12 hours a day.
Oh, my God. You got to get some blue light glasses, dude.
I do. I just don't wear them in here because I look like a goober. And
glasses are cool, man. It's like, if wearing glasses is cool, then call me Spider-Man.
You don't have glasses on. What are you talking about?
I would. If I could wear some faux glasses, they would make me look smarter instantly. This accent is working against me. I need some help.
If glasses are cool, then call me Spider-Man. No glasses on his face. Excellent. Let's go to Ernie in Nashville first. Hello, Ernie.
Hello. How are you doing, Buck?
I'm well, sir.
That's good. I had two questions for the mayor. One of them, the first one, had to do with, is the stadium going to still provide some parking? And the second one, in regard to growth of the city, I noticed on a number of streets, the new buildings are coming up, and they are no more than, say, 8 feet, maybe 6 feet from the street. So I don't see where there's a lot of, as many people as coming, seem like they would be trying to save room to expand some of the main thoroughfares going in and out of downtown.
That second part is a question that I obviously don't have the answer to, Ernie, because that would come by way of the mayor's office. But I will say to you on the first part, there will be parking still provided by the team while Nissan Stadium is under construction, because obviously you'll still have the parking lots in the north end zone. There are parking lots to the south end zone. But obviously the vast majority of parking at Nissan is going away for the immediate, which, of course, is going to cause logistical problems for a lot of people. There's not necessarily a solution to it right now, right? Because you have one side, almost an entire side of the stadium that's occupied by the riverfront. There are parking lots on I guess it would be the west-facing side of the stadium, but there's the players' parking lot. They're not going to take away from the players' parking lot to give more parking while they do this. It is the one situation in that there's many, all right? When you do multi-billion-dollar deals like this, billion with a B, you understand that the circumstances are going to look a lot different as to, how much flexibility you have in the meantime. And some things that you're just going to have to eat. A lot of people are going to have to eat the idea it's going to be harder to go to a Titans game. Just flatly. It's going to be harder to go to a Titans game while this construction is underway, because they're still going to play these games at Nissan Stadium. Nissan Stadium is not an overwhelmingly tough place logistically compared to so many other NFL stadiums that I go to. My God, at least it's, within walking distance of downtown, as opposed to having to schlep out from Boston to Foxborough to do Patriot Place, or, even Buffalo was way the hell far. Like, I know I sound terrible complaining about these things because I fly around the country going to football games for a living, but there are so many different stadiums that have larger logistical issues than the one that Nissan poses. And I think that's the most important thing among all of these things is that they're keeping that East Bank footprint while also the city getting some benefit out of the East Bank.
I mean, look at Dallas. I mean, they're all the way in Fort Worth where they had to put Jerry World out. They are not even technically in Dallas.
No, I did the combine there, or not the combine, the draft there a couple of years ago. It's nowhere close to Dallas.
You got to take like a 45-minute bus ride. So, look at what they got and what's being heralded as probably the most, or at least at its time, the most up-to-date stadium in the NFL. And look what they had to do to get it. And you're going to get that right here in Nashville. And hopefully it won't be too big of a logistical issue as far as parking and the other things that we've come to complain about, right?
So I do a Q&A on the A to Z Sports Instagram story every Tuesday and take people's Titans questions. And somebody asked me, how excited are you for the new stadium? And I said, well, my seat's going to get worse.
You're such a bum.
I don't.
You are such a curmudgeon.
I mean,
how are you in your 20s and you are a Scrooge? I bet you're the worst to be around in Christmas time. You're like, I don't even like Frosty the Snowman.
Well, they play games on Christmas weekend, so you wouldn't. Only the cats would know because it's only me and the cats for Christmas because the Titans have practice and games and whatnot. Just it was such a wet blanket move, man, and I didn't think about it till after I wrote it out and I saw it in print. I'm like, oh, you D-bag. What's wrong with you? But yeah, I mean, how do we all think about things? How they affect us personally? And nothing, I stand to gain none. I mean, other than I live downtown and it's right by where, I continue to live and work. The press box seats only get worse in these new stadiums. And, I'd be lying to you if I told you guys I wasn't self-involved. Larry in Nashville is next.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Larry.
Quick comment and a quick question, and I'll hang up and let you answer it. I'm from Nashville, but I was able to live in Southern California for about 13 years. And going to Dodger Stadium and watching baseball was a real thrill for me. So the question is, this new stadium, will it be able to accommodate Major League Baseball in the future? I'll hang up. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the call, Larry. Right now, the Titans have no designs on sharing the stadium. The plan does not involve the incorporation of Major League Baseball. The MLB to Nashville situation is very much, to my understanding, and I said this the last time that we talked about MLB to Nashville. They did invite me to their, it's not team offices because I know they have a team name theoretically with the Music City Stars, but they invited me to their office space where they work out of to kind of walk me through a lot of these things. And we've had John Lohr on, who's kind of the most front-facing person on behalf of MLB to Nashville. There is no interest, as I understand it, in talking to several different parties of the Titans working with baseball that way. They're just not interested. It's not MLB to Nashville has no claim on the stadium land. They have no real interest in, providing a space for another. And I don't know how much of this. If you asked them, I don't know if there would be an honest moment about this, but, in the same way that we obviously know there are tensions between the Titans and the Predators, right? Because you're competing for the same dollar, basically, and largely during the same time of year, because the Preds are now starting back up as football season is in full swing. So you're basically asking them to offer their competition for your dollar their own space that one side is infinitely shouldering more than the other, and the Titans have zero interest in doing that right now. And, MLB to Nashville does not have the funding. They just don't have the funding to get the team here as we sit here today. We'll see how that develops in future, probably years to come. Now, because I'm an idiot and because I forgot to do the polls, Robert has devised a new plan. So how do we do this? Since we've never done a radio show without polls in the year and a half of this thing's existence. We'll try it anyway. All right, what are we doing?
Two Rivers Ford. Custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers Ford, and they'll deliver it when it gets manufactured. We still got Borat in our ear. Isn't that nice?
Yeah. Oh.
There it is. There's that music.
We found the club.
We found the club. And I found the polls. Guys.
You found the what?
I found the polls.
You found polls?
I did.
I didn't tweet them. How did you find them?
All right. So, according to our listeners, whose fault is it that there are no polls today?
Oh, damn it.
99% of people say Buck Reising. There is one vote for me. And I wonder if you found these secret polls, Buck, as a way to get back at me. But you know what? Tomorrow, we're going to have polls, and they're going to be better than ever. Dang it.
It's the most lopsided result we've ever had on a single poll vote. Is it my fault, yes or no? The answer is undeniably yes. Now, you wonder how I would have found these hidden polls. I assume they are coming from my Twitter account, which is directly linked to my phone. So anytime you do anything, I get a notification. Which, by the way, I have seen both you and Lucas have access to my Twitter account, and both of you have at separate times forgotten that you are accessing my Twitter account.
Sorry about those likes, buddy.
Problematic, to say the least. It's been a not so problematic show. Outside of, forgetting one of the core staples of what it is that we do on a regular basis. I thought this went quite well. If you agree, great. If not, well, you can tell us about it later because our time here has come to an end. But if you missed any of the show today, including Mayor John Cooper, we invite you to check out the podcast. Simply search The Buck Reising Show in your favorite podcast app. Primetime tonight. If I don't talk to you then, radio show starts at 10 tomorrow morning. Superbook Sports is where you go to take the fight to Vegas this football season. They are going to put you in a position to succeed with the best odds makers on the Strip. No people across the pond setting lines for American sports.